Hey there, this is Jexy with the Systems Alliance, and in this news update, we're going to go over the fact that Activision Blizzard just had their earnings call, and investors and Activision Blizzard alike are disappointed with Destiny 2's sales. Obviously, they've been disappointed with the original game sales for a while, and now they're disappointed in the most recent DLC release, Forsaken, and those sales. Obviously, it's been kind of a mess of late, with Call of Duty failing to produce, as well as the whole Diablo Immortal fiasco on mobile. But with Destiny, it's really been about their monetization practices that they've had with the game, ripping players off, making it so that they have to buy all the DLC instead of just the latest one to get the full content, something that other games generally don't do. Putting out a much worse product than the original game in the first Destiny. It really comes down to a lot of the microtransactions and how the loot boxes would rip people off during events. They've been caught in flat out lies in regards to your ability to actually win some of the items, putting the odds much lower, especially the more you played. So really ripping off their core fan base. And to their core fan base's credit, they did the math and they realized, hey guys, you're ripping us off. Activision Blizzard, you are ripping us off. And then of course they'd had to backtrack. Bungie, had egg on their face. It's just been a complete disaster. And so how does Activision plan to fix this? Well, I think it's obvious. Put in more microtransactions. So Activision COO Cody Johnson had this to say. We have not yet seen the full core re-engage of Destiny, which has led to the underperformance against expectations to date. Some players are in a wait-and-see mode. If you're in, you're deeply engaged. If not, we think now's the time to bring players back. So this quote actually doesn't make a whole lot of sense when you think about it, because they're trying to really spin it into a positive manner, but in reality it just kind of sucks. If you're in a wait-and-see mode, you're not bringing players back. They're not coming back. They're in a wait and see mode. They're waiting for you to do something really good and you just haven't yet. Even if their other DLCs were met with really poor reviews, now Forsaken's met with positive, that's just like, 1 out of 4, 1 out of 5. And that's including the original game. There's been events, DLC, they've all been terrible. So the fact that you have one good one is not making players jump in. There are YouTubers who strapped themselves to Destiny 2 planning for that to be their main channel thing, and they've given up on it because no one's viewing the stuff anymore. No one's viewing it on Twitch, no one's viewing it on YouTube. People have just moved away from Destiny 2, and for good reason. They've ripped players off enough, they've treated them poorly, they've treated their original base like they were a bunch of idiots, were caught doing it, tried to backtrack, promised they wouldn't do it again, did it again, were caught doing it, backtrack, lied again, were caught doing it. I mean, it's such a pattern with them that they've lost all trust. Bungie's brand is pretty much forever damaged, because at this rate, whether it's Bungie or Activision, neither of them are going to do what it's going to take to get the fans back, because they're going in the opposite direction still. And when you hear the people at the top of Activision talk, you can tell that they're still definitely going in the opposite way. They don't care about the fans other than if they can see dollar signs out of them. But other than that, the player base are just cows. Cows ready for slaughter for them. That's all they are. And if you're a Destiny player, that's all you are to them. And it sucks. And if you were with Blizzard before or Bungie before, it didn't used to be like that. But that's just how it is now, because Activision is clearly steering the ship now. And I remember the news originally when Destiny first launched. It was supposed to be this $500 million budget for a game, which is unheard of. It was going to span 10 years, and people were like, well, how are you going to do it? And people thought, oh, it must be like, World of Warcraft, or who knows? But the original launch was botched. It had so many fixes they needed to do with the game. Had to redo the entire voiceover. I mean, the whole thing was a disaster, but it ended up being a decent game. Nothing great, but playable and decent. Then Destiny 2 came out, and you thought, well, they fixed everything in Destiny 1. Destiny 2 should be that plus a lot more. The game that we were really expecting when Destiny first launched. And then of course it turns out they regressed. To the point where just with this Forsaken DLC and just with all the fixes, and now they finally stopped lying, or at least it seems like they finally stopped lying with regards to all their events and their DLC and everything, they've just maybe gotten back to the point to where Destiny 1 basically ended. So there's still been no improvement in the game over the original. So it definitely makes you wonder, is this thing even going to survive 10 years? Is it going to make the money back? Well, obviously, according to this earnings call, the answer is no to the latter. They're not making the money they wanted to. And the fact that they don't understand why they're not making the money, as I said before, it just shows a massive disconnect between the people up top and their fans. And it's hurting them financially. And so a lot of times investors are like, yay, mobile games, yay, microtransactions, yay, loot boxes. Because when you have those things, sure, it rips off players, but it might make investors money. But in this case, their product is so poor and so laden with the stuff people hate, it's actually losing them money. But they can't seem to get their heads around that. So something that they announced at BlizzCon that Activision Blizzard is trying to do with Destiny is make the base game free until November 18th. So yay, I guess, but you still have to pay for the DLC, which is pretty expensive. And although it's finally the first good DLC, it doesn't seem to be enough to make people take the jump into the game so that after you're in, that's when they hit you with the microtransactions. That doesn't seem like a win-win for the player base. And I mean, why would you go back? They've lied a million times before. Why would they be telling the truth now? So of course in an earnings call, you want to build up your product. So even though they said they had less engagement with World of Warcraft and Call of Duty compared to the months prior, they did say that those are their franchises that are doing well financially. But they did say that some of their other franchises, like Destiny, are not performing as well as we'd like. And we're working to accelerate the pace of live operations innovation and improve the speed in which we release new content to keep our players engaged and to provide new opportunities for monetization. So obviously this is not something that anyone wants to hear. And the fact that they're only focusing on monetizing the few players that they have left shows why they're losing money in the first place. They want to milk their small player base compared to what it used to be for as much money as they have. Because at this point, they've obviously given up trying to make a good game. They've given up trying to make a good sequel. They've given up trying to make more good DLC. Because they see that even if they put out one good DLC, they're not being rewarded for it anymore because they've lost the trust of the player base. And it's not just the trust of the player base, their own player base that they've lost the trust in anyone on the outside who might have taken a chance on Destiny. That's why they're offering the game for free, but it doesn't seem like many are taking them up on that because it doesn't seem worth it. Activision Blizzard has such bad rapport with players right now that they're not trusting them for anything, whether it's Destiny 2, Diablo, Call of Duty. All these franchises have egg on their face right now, and the ones who caused it was Activision Blizzard themselves. So what it reminds me of is how high tax states tend to tax people more, and then they lose population because they move to lower tax states. So what is the solution for these other states that are losing population because they're taxing people too much? Well, they tax them more, of course, because they have a lower tax base that they need more money from. They need the same amount of revenue to keep doing what they're doing, but they have fewer people to get it from. And of course, with that analogy, the people who are moving out are generally the ones who can really afford to move out. So people generally who are paying taxes. The people who remain get more divided into rich and poor because the poor are paying less taxes anyway than the rich, and sometimes the rich, maybe it's not affecting them yet, but you have a lot of rich people moving out of high tax states, and those states keep raising the taxes. There's no difference here. Activision keeps losing player base because of the bad monetization practices that they're implementing, and their only solution is to implement more. And it boggles my mind to see that they can't see that this doesn't work. First, their stock dropped with Call of Duty and the news around that not selling as much as they wanted it to, which once again was no surprise because they took out the single player mode that at least half of their player base only played. And of course, the disastrous BlizzCon with the Diablo Immortal reveal, that didn't go well at all. People are still pissed at them for that. And then of course, then they reveal that, oh, well, we're actually making all our games on mobile, which pissed fans off further. And then on top of that, you reveal that Destiny 2 isn't doing as well. And the reason is because of your monetization practices and how you were throttling XP in order to make people more likely to buy loot boxes instead of actually giving them earned rewards. And their stock dropped even further. And well, what is their solution to try and monetize it more? I think even at this point, smart investors, which it seems like most of them are because the stock keeps going down, realize they don't know what they're doing. They shouldn't be doing this. That's not how they got this big, by treating fans like garbage. And I know people have likened this to, there's a fire burning, it's called Destiny 2. What's the way to fix it? Well, obviously it's to pour more gasoline on it. That should put the fire out. To me, that's the perfect analogy. I can't really think of a better one than that. So I know I keep talking about how their stock keeps dropping, and just to let you know, on October 3rd, their stock was at a high of $83 per share. They are now down to 55. I mean, their stock has dropped 34% in just over a month. Whether it be PR, their actual monetization practices, their lack of quality in their games, put it all together and the fact that their solution is just to let's see if we can squeeze more money out of players. Let's see if we can rip them off a little bit more, the remaining base that we do have. It's such a short-term outlook to their actual problem. The problem is they're ripping fans off in Destiny and not putting out a quality game. The problem with Call of Duty is they're disappointing fans by leaving out features like a single-player mode, a story mode, and now with their monetization practices, they're ripping them off. The problem with Diablo is that they're not really letting us know if they're making a Diablo 4, but what they are letting us know is that they're making crappy mobile games in order to rip people off. And when former developers say that Activision Blizzard, or at least Blizzard themselves, used to be full of gamers who knew how to run a company for gamers and still make money doing it, their solutions just reek of desperation and of a company who has lost their way and does not know how to fix it. And it was in this latest earnings call that their stock dropped over 13%. So Activision Blizzard is reeling right now. They don't know how to recover. They seem to be making all the wrong moves, whether it be quality or PR, and their Destiny 2 fix is just a combination of that. So let me know your thoughts about this. Leave a comment in the comment section below. Like, subscribe, share, and we'll catch you next time.